So I've been working in suicide prevention for about 11 years, a lot of it school-based to begin with, working in classrooms, delivering suicide prevention curriculum, talking to students about warning signs and symptoms and how to get help for themselves or for a friend. And then some community-based stuff as well. I'm the chair of the Summit County Suicide Prevention Coalition. I've served on that coalition for a few years and doing some trainings around the state as well. On top of that, I'm also an avid hunter and firearms owner. I've been hunting since I was about 8 years old, started going with my dad and my grandpa when I was a kid and just kind of got hooked on it. So for Lifeside Ohio, we come at this completely from an apolitical standpoint. We don't talk about bills or laws. We are solely focused on suicide prevention, and it's suicide prevention for firearms owners from firearms owners. The people that are working on Lifeside Ohio own firearms, again, for various reasons. So we come at it from that perspective that whether you like firearms, you don't like firearms, you own, you don't own, you're for or against them, everybody's for protecting the people that they care about and the people around them. So we know that when we talk about firearms, that if we store them in a safe way, it reduces risk for all kinds of negative outcomes, whether it's an accidental shooting or it's a suicide. We know that safe storage doesn't always mean that somebody else doesn't get a hold of a firearm. It just could be that maybe it's a delayed experience. And when we talk about suicide, suicide tends to be, especially for youth, a very impulsive act. So if we keep a firearm locked and we keep it stored unloaded, if we keep ammunition stored separately from firearms, it may take somebody 5 or 10 minutes to access that weapon, but that's an additional 5 or 10 minutes for someone to maybe intervene, or for that person who's struggling maybe to have second thoughts and come to a different conclusion. We come at it for firearms owners a lot of times thinking, well, we've trained our kids. Like, my kids know not to touch the guns in the house, and they know how to store something safely and which direction that a gun should be pointed, and the basic tenets of safety with firearms. But we also come at that thinking about them in a rational mind. Like when I went through hunter's education class as a kid, I wasn't depressed or suicidal. And so I learned how to hold and handle and use a firearm safely. But if I would be suicidal, I'm probably not thinking about safety at that point. So all those lessons that I learned go right out the window. And so taking that additional step, like locking something up, it gives it time for that training that your son or daughter's gone through to kick in. It gives it time for them to have rational thought instead of crisis thought. And so we're giving them that additional time to, again, prevent that death. So if there was one thing that I wish people knew, it would be that suicidal thoughts can be normal. Anybody can experience a crisis, anybody can have suicidal thoughts, but there are steps that we can take to mitigate risk. We can store things safely, we can have honest conversations, and if we're willing to ask about suicide and we're willing to take the steps to lower that risk, we can reduce our suicide rate here in the state of Ohio.